Hello and welcome to the Burn KC ScorchCast. I am your host Alex Blackburn here to bring you the Kansas City sports news. Kind of got a shorter podcast tonight. Gonna talk a little bit about college football, the start of the college basketball season, Sporting Kansas City, the Chiefs, and a few minor things. I'm gonna try and keep it brief. I got a lot I gotta work on still. This day, today, Monday. I know I'm dating myself. I'm sorry. I date myself with every podcast because it's just how weekly podcasts are. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. I have a ton to do though. So let's just jump right into it. We got some college football stuff. KU with a big win. Missouri and Kansas State with some pretty losses. We'll get into it though. College basketball starts tonight. I will be watching the KU-NC Central game here in just a little bit. I thought about doing a live stream for it, but not a huge deal. I'm not feeling that anymore. But maybe doing something for November with either a Chiefs game, sporting game, or a playoff game, or something like that. We'll see. I know I'm already got something planned for Kansas State. I will be at that game, so just stay tuned. I'll give a little bit more in-depth update at the end of the show. Let's just jump right into it. Okay, let's start with college football. Kansas getting a win over Iowa State in Ames, 28-21. Big win for them. This guarantees their first winning season since 2008. That gives you any idea of how bad Kansas football has been. The defense has scored up pretty well, I'd say. Um, they did have a few miscues, but this has been not the normal Jayhawk defense that we saw for the first couple of games. They've really done some fine tuning and look in midseason form, especially the secondary. I mean, the secondary's been one of the best in the Big 12, if not the best in the Big 12 so far this year. And then you have the advent of Jason Bean when he is confident, when he has time to prepare, and when he has momentum. And that is a Jason Bean that you really, really like. It has been rumored that Jalen Daniels is not going to play for the rest of the season, and I don't think many Kansas fans are worried about that anymore. I think they realize that Jason Bean can take them to great heights, can allow them to win out and put them in the best position possible to potentially make it to the Big 12 title game. The chances are kind of slim at this point. I know that Texas, I think, has to lose at least one, and then if not Texas, then Oklahoma State has to lose at least two. I think I got that right. I'm not positive. I know there's been a lot of scenarios being played out um, over the past couple of weeks, but I believe those are the most plausible scenarios for Kansas. Um, but even to just be in that spot this late into the season is insane because you think back to 3 years ago when Lance Leipold first got to Kansas. I don't think anybody thought that Kansas would be where they're at right now. And that's competing for a Big 12 title berth. And again, it's a slim shot, if you were Kansas, you probably would have liked to have seen Oklahoma win that game, just because you have the tiebreaker over them. Um, that being said, Oklahoma would still probably have to lose. The best case scenario for Kansas this past Saturday was if Texas lost and Oklahoma lost. If both of those teams lose, Kansas has the head to head over Oklahoma, and so long as they went out, they would have made the Big 12 championship game. I mean, they would have. Um, so maybe Oklahoma would have to lose too. I can't remember off the top of my head, but obviously that scenario is water under the bridge. Right now, we're looking at the scenario that I just mentioned. But again, like the fact that Kansas is there shows you just how good of a job Lance Leipold has done. And I think I'm with a lot of the KU faithful here in saying that Leipold deserves another extension. Um, Not saying that if you don't give him one, he's going to leave, but I think he deserves that other extension. I think he deserves a big time payday for what he has done for the Kansas Jayhawks. Um, he has been a masterful coach everywhere he has gone so far. And Kansas is no different. And I really, really hope that Kansas can keep him for a long time because it's awesome. I mean, yeah, I'm a Jayhawk alum, but it's just awesome for local college football for Kansas to not be in the dumpster. So, um, speaking of the other local college teams, uh, local teams went 1-2 this weekend. Mizzou lost to Georgia in Athens. It's not a loss to hang their heads over, though. They played a great ball game from start to finish. Just a few mistakes towards the end is what got them that loss. It's much akin to the game against LSU. It just had too many mistakes toward the end, and the wheels fell off. Because you were competing right there with Georgia until Brady Cook threw those two interceptions. Um, that first one was an absolute backbreaker, though. I mean, to be under pressure and then just to have the pressured ball go right into the lap of a defensive lineman and he returns it that far. Yeah, I know it got called back for a penalty, but the damage had been done at that point. And Brady Cook is, I don't want to say like Jason Bean. I think he's got a much better arm than Jason Bean does, is a lot more accurate and has better decision making skills, but in a better wide receiver room. But I I see a lot in terms of confidence issues between the two guys. I see a lot of similarities. Brady Cook is easily flustered, just like Jason Bean is, and that's his fatal flaw. Other than that, he's a great quarterback. If he can just learn to have some confidence and being cool under pressure, then I think he becomes one of the SEC elite quarterbacks. And he's got a lot of time to learn. You know, this season's not over, and I believe isn't he a junior? I think he's a junior. If not, he's a senior, which in that case, maybe you are a little, out of luck there. But um, overall, again, this season's not over. So Mizzou has plenty of chance to make a New Year's Six game. And if chips fall where they may even make the SEC championship. It's going to be a tough, tough ask, but Georgia's got a really tough schedule ahead of them. They'll need to survive that in order to make the SEC championship game, and then it's going up against Alabama, which I mean, Bama's Bama. So, um, Kansas State. What to say about Kansas State? Um, that loss versus Texas, it hurts both the Jayhawks and the Wildcats, for one. But two, so many people are getting mad at Will Howard for absolutely no reason. Does he have the clutch gene? Not necessarily, I would say. Is he the worst quarterback in the Big 12 like a lot of people are trying to paint him as? Absolutely not. And I am baffled that he is getting so much hate s- toward him. I'm baffled that people want a true freshman quarterback to start over him. Yes, I know Avery Johnson played very, very well in the games that he started and in the games that he's played in. But nothing for nothing, those games were against cupcakes. He didn't play a true ranked team. He played what? Texas Tech, and then I think who else? Let me look that up super quick here. And Houston and TCU. We played Tech, TCU, and Houston. Like bottom feeders of the Big 12 this year. I'm not saying that he didn't ball out in those performances because he absolutely did. He looked great. But he wasn't playing Texas. He wasn't playing Oklahoma State. He wasn't playing the juggernauts of the Big 12 this year. And Will Howard has been dealing with injury issues, and now he's dealing with confidence issues because people are so quick to throw him away. And it's incredibly disheartening. And I know the Kansas State fan base can get pretty hostile sometimes towards their own guys, no less. And I'm not saying, the Tiger or Jayhawk fan base is any better. I mean, shoot, look at Jason Bean. Look at Brady Cook, too, of last year. I mean, uh, but what I'm saying is Will Howard is not a bad quarterback. Will Howard's actually a pretty good quarterback. But when you throw him under the bus constantly, even after injury issues plagued him, even after his defense sold him out against Missouri, I mean, what is he supposed to do? Like, what more does he have to do? He got you guys a Big 12 championship last year. And you're so quick to throw him under the bus like this? I mean, it's ridiculous. College sports is a brutal, brutal game, but there's such a thing as being too critical and being a couch head coach. Chris Kleiman sees Will Howard's potential. Chris Kleiman is playing Will Howard because he saw what happened last year and because he likes Will Howard's the abilities of Will Howard. And I don't know what more he has to do to have the love and respect of the Kansas State faithful. So that's just my take on Will Howard. I know that it was gut wrenching to see that final drive in overtime just slip through the fingers of Kansas State. Um, and I was rooting for K State too, but it's so ridiculous the flack that Will Howard gets. It really is because Avery Johnson would have gotten destroyed by that Texas defense. They're very good at defending scrambling quarterbacks. They would pressure him all game. It's a hostile environment. He would get killed. Plain and simple, he would get killed. There's so many different factors that you have to take into account as to why Will Howard played over Avery Johnson that day. The plain and simple is Will Howard is better in big games because Avery Johnson is completely untested in big games. And that's all I'll say about that. So let's move on to college basketball. All right, so college basketball starts tonight. Kansas is playing NC Central. I believe Kansas State is playing USC to uh, open their basketball season. Let's see who Missouri's playing. I can't remember who Missouri plays. Arkansas, Arkansas Pine Bluff is who Missouri is playing. Um, hmm, cool. Uh, I mean, Kansas is playing NC Central. It's November basketball. College basketball is back, but don't expect it to be good looking basketball. That's kind of the thing about November college basketball is it's not supposed to look good. It's supposed to kind of be a tune up for conference, which are the games that really matter. So Kansas is the obvious preseason number one. I mean, they've got a loaded transfer class. They've got great returners. They got Bill Self as coach. They beat the NCAA allegations. I mean, this is a team that if they were not to go to the Final Four, a lot of people would be very disappointed. That being said, Kansas being preseason number one, if you're a Kansas Jayhawks basketball fan, you know that that's a bad omen. And not saying that that's going to happen or that I'm, completely relying on superstition. I think Kansas is going to do fine this year, but there's smoke. I won't say that there's fire, but there's smoke. Um, so we'll have to see how these November and December games go. I think Kansas handles um, their non-conference schedule. Kentucky is probably that toughest test, I'd say, and that's in I believe 2 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play them. But other than that, I think Kansas has a fairly easy non-conference schedule that has a lot of winnable games. As for Kansas State, Kansas State doesn't return a whole lot of guys. They especially don't return, Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson. Sorry, I completely blanked there for a second. Um, it, but they add Arthur Kaluma, they add Tyler Perry, and they look good. Um, the big story with them is the situation with Naquan Tomlin. How long is he out? How long does Jerome Tang keep him out, given his whole morality, um, and his quote unquote moral high standing? I mean, you're a college basketball coach, man. College basketball coaches are not like these you shouldn't be overzealous. I'll just say that. You work in an industry where you kind of have to walk on the backs of people. You do. And I mean the whole deal of we got dudes, man, come play for us. We got real, wholesome, we got real wholesome environment, blah 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 blah. Completely throw that out the window. If I'm Kansas State, I'm throwing that out the window. I think that's such a lame philosophy. I think it's a joke to even pretend like that's how college basketball works. It's how youth sports works. The whole rah rah shish boom bah thing. only works if you actually have, basketball intelligence, which I think Jerome Tang does, but it's only going to get you so far with these guys that, are trying to play at a professional level. And in the advent of NIL, are basically playing at a professional level. So the whole we're a family, this, that, and the other thing, it just feels like psychological manipulation. Nothing for nothing, but it does. I mean, it feels like you're joining a cult. But if it works for him, it works for him. I think it's kind of lame, in my opinion. But if it works for him, it works for him. They're picked to like finish eighth or ninth in the Big 12, which is ridiculous in my opinion. I think they finish top five or better. And I think they beat Houston. I think they beat, Baylor. I think they beat even Texas, maybe. Maybe. Texas has a good transfer class too. Um, so we'll see how that goes. Um, sorry, my cat's being weird. But Missouri. Let's move on to Missouri before I rant too long about that. Um, sorry. Uh, he was playing in his water bowl and about knocked it over. So had to mitigate that potential disaster. I've got a lot of computer equipment over here, and the food bowl is right there. Maybe not the best spot in the whole wide world, but it works. um, going into Missouri though, Dennis Gates is a great coach. Missouri lost a lot of guys though, specifically Kobe Brown. Um, I think they'll be a good basketball team. There's a lot of horses in the SEC this year, though. You got Alabama, you got Kentucky, you got Tennessee, you've got Arkansas, you've got. I'm forgetting somebody. I can't. I really feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Kind of Auburn. Auburn's decent. They're not spectacular, but they're decent. So we've got competition. I think Missouri finishes top three in the SEC. I do. And the Arkansas, the Alabamas, the Tennessees, they're going to be hard games, but I think they're winnable. And I think Dennis Gates has the coaching prowess and has enough returning guys as well as the transfer class to, and the freshmen, to be a very, very good program. Um, that's kind of a wait. That's probably the most wait and see team among the three local, you know, major college basketball programs. Missouri's kind of the most wait and see out of all of them, I think. Um, obviously, Kansas is Kansas. Kansas State has a ton of guys that can play very good basketball. They also lost a bunch of guys that could play very good basketball. They're kind of a wait and see team, but I feel like they're going to finish top five or better in the Big 12, and that's in the Big 12, which is probably the best conference in basketball right now. And will if they're not already, they will because they're taking in Arizona next year. So uh, Missouri's kind of the team that I'm just like, I can see them finishing super high in the SEC, but I can also see them finishing kind of in the mid to low range if, the magic of last year has worn off. But we'll see how things go. Again, they're kind of a wait and see team, just like Missouri's pretty much always been. So let's wait and see, shall we? All right, moving on to sporting. Sporting had some pretty big wins this past week. both over the cross-state rival St. Louis teams. And when I tell you that I am over the moon because I called it. um, but I called it. Called it. And excuse me, sorry. But looking at Sporting Kansas City, we owe Peter Vermees an apology. A huge apology. This is a man that has coached tons of playoff soccer. Tons. He's one of the most experienced coaches in the MLS. He's one of the most successful coaches in the MLS. And yeah, the start of the season was terrible. 3 goals in 10 games is not where you want to be as a professional soccer team. Just straight up. And Kansas City was in the doldrums of the Western Conference for a very long time. But it's the resolve and the turnaround that matter now. And now that Kansas City has the momentum, as I said before, they're gonna take it and they're gonna run with it. And yeah, they scraped into the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. But they just beat the number 1 seed in the West Conference handily. Handily. By by 6 goals to 2. Handily. So, in my opinion, they're the team to beat in the Western Conference right now. They have all the momentum. They're the most informed out of any of the remaining Western Conference teams. And they have Peter Vermees, who is excellent in the playoffs. They have guys that are from that MLS Cup run still on the roster that are still giving the best advice possible and that are still that have been here before. And again, I truly think Kansas City owes him an apology because he has turned this team around in the span of a year and has made them into one of the most dangerous teams in the MLS. And I can't wait to see what they do in the conference semifinals. Now, in the conference semifinals, they're either going to play Real Salt Lake or Houston. Real Salt Lake is the team that I'm worried about personally. I know that Sporting has had trouble with them in the past. They're the team that they beat in the MLS Cup in penalties, and they're kind of a tough team. I think they beat them in penalties. Weren't they the team that they beat in the MLS Cup? I don't know, but I'm almost positive. But that being said, Kansas City's in business. Sporting's in business. And I'm very excited to see how they play for the rest of the playoffs because they looked spectacular against St. Louis. They looked like a team that had stomped everybody in the regular season, when in all reality, it was quite the opposite. They went on some good runs and eked into the playoffs with a losing record, mind you, with a losing record. But they're here now, and they're the most dangerous and informed team in the MLS. And that's a force to be reckoned with, in my opinion. So, good luck to them. Hoping I can make it out to at least one game. So, okay. We got the Chiefs and some minor news, and then we shall wrap up so I can watch the KU game. And hopefully not be disappointed. Uh, I mean, I was disappointed, when they lost against Illinois and they didn't look, spectacular in their other pickup game, their exhibition game. I can't remember. Oh yeah, against Fort Hays State. Sorry. Um, I think they'll be fine. I think a lot of people are really, really overreacting to October college basketball, which is bare bones. Bill Self's not going to give his entire playbook away in the first two games of the season that don't even count. So get over it. It's fine. It looks like all they really have to do this season is beat Hunter Dickinson. So, sorry. Not the Chiefs. You came here for the Chiefs. If you fast forwarded to this section, so I'm gonna give you the Chiefs. I apologize, but the Chiefs got the W in Germany against a very very good Dolphins team. No thanks to their offense, um, which kind of imploded in the second half. I would watched that first half, and I was just like, man, the Chiefs' offense is back. They're back in form. Let's go. They look great. And then the second half happened, and I was just like, what is this? Did they just get complacent? Thank God for one of the best defenses in the NFL right now in the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Never thought I'd say that. But man, this defense is playing out of its mind. And they have to. The Chiefs would not be where they're at right now if they didn't. So, what's up with the offense? A lot of people are, blaming the wide receivers. Understandable. They don't look good. Patrick Mahomes doesn't seem to trust them. In my opinion, though, it's kind of a little bit of the receivers, the play calling, and Patrick Mahomes' decision making. I think he's putting too much trust into Travis Kelce and too little trust into his wide receivers, which I get because they've been bad this year. But the only way to build that trust is to continue throwing them the ball. They can catch, they can, but the only way you know that is if you continue to throw them the ball. And again, I get it. I do. I get it. It has not looked good so far for any of those receivers. The best receiver statistically right now is Justin Watson. That's how bad it's gotten. But, you know, and he's been injured. So I just uh, we had a burning question actually, and it was in reference to the recent trade deadline. And I asked you guys, should the Chiefs have traded for a wide receiver? Let's see what you said, because this kind of offers some insight into this situation. So, as you can clearly see, there's a lot of debate as to what exactly is wrong with the Chiefs. And I'm here to offer my best insight and interpret these numbers how I can. So on Instagram, let's analyze the Instagram poll first. A lot of you voted trust the guys that we have to develop or just the offensive play calling. Only a few you voted Veach being wrong. Well, on Twitter, it was half play calling, half Veach being wrong. I expect that on Twitter. Twitter is incredibly reactionary. I don't even know why I post polls on there because I know the answer that I'm going to get is the most extreme answer, the most reactionary answer, and there's no in between. So, very few rational people, in my opinion, thought that Veach was in the wrong for not trading for a wide receiver. I think that is rational because what you have at your disposal is a lot of guys that don't have a lot of experience and just a carousel of guys. Where basically what the Chiefs are doing is they're being too impatient and not allowing Patrick Mahomes to develop the trust with those guys because there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Which is why I was like, maybe trading for a wide receiver isn't our best option. Unless it's like a guy that is a for sure wide receiver one, and even then you gotta get him used to the offense. In my opinion, there's really not a single guy that was up on the trade block that would just immediately make an impact. Yeah, I know DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is out there. DeAndre Hopkins. Why didn't we trade for DeAndre Hopkins? Eh, He's old, first and foremost. Look what he's done with the Titans so far, and I get it. The Titans are in a much worse offensive situation than the Chiefs are, but you guys have to understand that it's incredibly tough to learn an NFL playbook. And I know Joshua Dobbs made it look super easy, but that was against an Atlanta Falcons defense that is Swiss cheese. So people need to understand the machinations of why NFL GMs do what they do. I don't think Brett Beach is a bad GM. I think a lot of people are being very reactionary to a lot of what he does, including myself sometimes. Do I think the Chiefs would have benefited from trading for a wide receiver? I frankly don't know. I think they benefit from having simplistic enough play calling and putting guys in the right spots to where you can have confidence built into this offense. Because right now, what I think the offense lacks most is confidence. And it's it's pretty tough to see guys drop balls because I know that that is a killer for that. It's the regular season. The defense is balling out, and you have Patrick Mahomes on your side. The Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. And barring a monumental collapse, the Chiefs will make the playoffs. It's it's completely I just have no idea why people think the Chiefs aren't going to make the playoffs just because our wide receivers are mid. And reasonably so because Matt Nagy can't decide which ones he wants to use and thereby doesn't allow him to build confidence. So we're midway through the season. It's almost a moot point, but Chiefs will be fine. I think I agree with the people that want us to stay the course, that want us to trust in the guys that we have. Because frankly, I think it's the play calling above anything else that needs to be fixed. Above anything else. All right. Few things before we wrap up here. The Blues traveled to Cincinnati, um, and unfortunately dropped the playoff appearance. So they're officially out of the playoffs. Unfortunately, they lost 31-22 in what was a great game from start to finish. Um, there were a couple of live broadcasts on Facebook if you got a chance to watch them. I was at the Blues D2 Wichita game helping out there. Unfortunately, they lost that one too. That was also a very good game to watch, though. The Blues showed a lot of fight, showed a lot of heart, and this is not a season to hang your heads. It was the first season that the Blues made the playoffs in a few years. So it's awesome to see that the Blues are back up to that standard. And I'm looking forward for further things to come from them. And then lastly, we got a Movember update here. Wee woo, Movember update. Yay! Men's mental health, men's physical health, awareness of it, supporting resources for it. That's what Movember is all about. It's what this thing is all about. Um, is raising awareness, and we have raised $200 so far in the 6 days that the Movember charity has been up. Um, thank you to everyone that has donated so far. Your donations mean the world. Um, no matter how big or how small, every single cent counts. And I appreciate everyone that has donated. Um, I'm gonna be working out some fundraising activities, as well as doing a few things like continuing to share the link and talk about it on all of my channels. Uh, Please support. Please support. Um, $200 is great, especially for the first 6 days. But we can absolutely do more to meet that $500 goal. I think we can meet that with ease, honestly. So please donate if you can. I'm hoping to see some big time donations because it's my birthday here in a couple weeks, and I will be asking for donations there for sure. And just remember what this is for. This isn't for me. This isn't for um, supporting the channel or anything like that. It's for supporting men's mental health awareness. It's for supporting a good cause. Not saying, the channel's not a good cause, but this is a cause that is greater than anything that I put out. It's providing awareness for something that has long since been stigmatized, and we need to smash that stigma, um, and provide the resources, support, and overall funding for men's mental health, men's physical health, and getting men the resources that they need. Um, your health is incredibly important no matter who you are. Um, but for men, sometimes your health can take a back burner, and that's just not okay. As someone that has been through those types of thoughts before, someone that has stopped caring for themselves, um, in certain parts of my life, and that has a very personal connection with this cause. Um, your donations mean a ton, and don't just take my word for it. Go to the Movember website and read the success stories because there's a lot of them. This is a very good charity to donate toward, and I am very happy to be supporting them. And they've been supportive of me as well. So please go donate if you can. Even if you can't donate, please share, 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 and let's get to that $500 goal. So that's our show. Thank you for joining us tonight. This has been, or during the day, whenever you're watching. This has been the Burn KC, though. Thank you again for watching. We'll be here same time next week, and I hope to see you there. This has been Alex Blackburn for the Burn KC, signing off.